I guess I chose to go to the University of Michigan because it was the best public university option to aspire to for me growing up in Michigan. You know, my brother was a student at the University of Michigan when I was applying to colleges, so it just seemed like aspirationally the best place I could go. Wasn't about to go to another school out of state, so I basically uh, was pretty set on U of M, and only really applied there in Michigan State. My first experience with U of M was basically visiting my brother there when he was in college. So that's kind of what enamored me with the place. You know, growing up in suburban Detroit, Metro Detroit, it was kind of I didn't really come from a place that had amenities that you could like a college town vibe. So it was really exciting to me to hang out there. And so then, yeah, when I moved to Ann Arbor to start school, I was in the residential college, which I forgot to mention earlier. I sort of was plugged into that community through my brother already, so I had some established, connections here, or not here, in Ann Arbor, and it was just a really exciting thing to go away to Ann Arbor for me.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember your roommates, like, and are still friends with people you met?
Yeah, I actually had a couple of friends from high school who I went to U of M with, who I still, they've since moved to Detroit as well, and I still see them. So I don't know. I guess the world has stayed small in some ways after U of M, but yeah, I had a random roommate in East Quad who he ended up like finding Jesus and going to this like Catholic university in Florida. So I had a kind of a nice little setup where I had this like double room to myself for most of my freshman year, uh, and I don't really keep in touch with his name is David anymore. Uh, Though what's kind of interesting is I think when I entered U of M, it was the first year of Facebook's existence. So it was like a new thing when I enrolled, and it had just come to the University of Michigan, because back in those days it was like it was a new thing that was being unveiled at different campuses. So it's kind of funny, like you connected with a lot of people then who I'm still in touch with through virtual shit. A couple favorites in the RC. Hubert Cohen. Hubert Cohen was an amazing guy. He actually taught a lot of film classes, but he would teach literature. He taught a class called Hero as the Outsider, which was a sort of a mixed media course, humanities course, in which we watched film and read books like Jerzy Kosinski's The Painted Bird, and we watched Zelig by Woody Allen, and just a great collection of stories about heroes as sort of anti-hero heroes, or heroes. Yeah, so that was a great course. What else? The literature of slavery by Carrie Larson was very good in the English department. I worked at I had a job through the university that I sort of got hooked up with through my brother and friends in the RC, at a place that no longer exists, and it's a sad loss to the campus
Where
community.
is that?
It's called the Half Ass, and it was in the basement of the, well, it was called the Halfway Inn, but it was known as the Half Ass, and it was a uh, quite an institution from like the 1970s until just a little after I left U of M. And it was eventually like Soulless Campus Dining took it over and just sort of turned it into a blah. I don't even know what it is now. They've since renovated East Quad, and I haven't been through there, but it's no longer there. But it was basically like a little food spot in the basement of the dorm that was run by students, and it was also a venue. So there was this thing called the East Quad Music Co-op where people. It was cool. People booked traveling acts. I mean, like, REM played there in 1985, and you know, sort of like indie and underground stuff came through there. Noise shows like Wolf Eyes. I don't know if you heard Wolf Eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like just cool stuff. Like kind of like a little more experimental kind of a space, and it was a fun time. We sort of took advantage of the university. We you know, it was a fun time to be a young person working that job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something I was involved in. That was a community, but not really a formal community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
WCBN, which is 88.3,
Oh, okay.
located at the far left of your dial.
Yeah.
That was I did some radio shows on WCBN. You know, nothing like doing a 3 to 6 a.m. radio show that like maybe 5 people are listening to. You know, amazing library that kind of got me into collecting vinyl records, which is something I've continued to do today.
Oh, cool.
Student groups. Other than that, I worked off campus as well. I worked at a place called Sam's Store on Liberty Street in Ann Arbor. It's been there since 1946. It's just one of like the classic one of the rare surviving classic Ann Arbor businesses.
Yeah.
Every time I go back to Ann Arbor, it seems like there are fewer, and there's more sort of like
Yeah.
chain, whatever. You know, everybody complains the same complaint about how the places change when they leave, but you know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed summers in Ann Arbor. Like, cause like I never took summer class, but I would always stay after and live there.
Yeah.
I think there was like something special about living in Ann Arbor in the summer. Just like sort of working a job and not doing school, and you know, I mean, I would, you know, it's not directly U of M related, but there's something about spending a summer in Ann Arbor that I loved.
Yeah. Definitely. Do you have a least favorite experience about your
Oh
time
yeah, it's paying back my student loan bills. That's by far my least favorite experience. I feel like I was underprepared for, you know, so like, you know, my parents didn't go to college. My brother was the first one. We kind of just like bought into this idea of gotta go to U of M, it's great, you know, and like I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I wish I would have been like more financially informed than I was taking out student loans back then. And yeah, it kind of sucks paying them back. I wish I had, you know, done things, maybe lived in Ypsilanti a little bit, you know.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, it's much cheaper. So there are some things that, you know, wish I knew then what I know now, but
Yeah. So no like bad
no,
experiences really.
not really.
Yeah.
No. I will say that U of M, for a place that prides itself on liberalism and open-mindedness, isn't that diverse of a place. I mean, I would like to see a little bit more, as a public university in the state of Michigan, I'd like to see more attention given to kids from Michigan, particularly low-income Michigan places like Detroit and, you know, even downriver, you know, downriver Michigan. I just didn't meet many people from downriver who went to U of M.
Yeah.
So I could see I would like to see the university provide more of a public service to young people in this state and make it more accessible for them to attend. Yeah. You know, there was one of the big things I remember is, so there was a lot of like anti-corporate activism going on with the university contracts. Nike and sweatshops and that contract with the football program in particular was a big deal. But so there was some protests around that, and then I wasn't really involved in it. I didn't care all that much. Sorry to say it, but I mean, obviously, child labor is nothing to be laughed at, but I didn't really buy into that cause. Also, another one was like something going on. I never quite understood the issue, but Coca-Cola and campus vending machines. There was this whole like Killer Coke thing because Coke was involved in some anti-labor practices in Colombia, and I don't know. I never got the details of everything, but there was like the far left student population was like very anti-Coke for a while, and that seemed to be sort of a big thing. But of course, my first time um, casting a vote in a presidential election was my freshman year at U of M, and that was, of course, when the United States of America reelected George W. Bush
How
for
did
his
the
second term.
campus react to
I mean, it was like it was like your mother died around campus. It was just pretty sullen afterwards. And living in Ann Arbor, I'm like, there's no way this asshole can get reelected. Just like, I mean, also, internet media wasn't what it was. You didn't have like, it sounds weird to reflect on it that way, but this was 2004. I mean,
that?
it didn't seem like Bush could win to me, and there you go.
Yeah.
I was sort of disconnected from real America at the time, I guess. The rest of America, I should say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a big disappointment. And then when I moved to Detroit in 2008, it was kind of interesting because that same year Barack Obama was elected kind of as a dark horse candidate, which was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Was Detroit a big supporter then?
Oh man, Detroit was I mean, I'll never forget election day in Detroit and people in the streets just like partying. It was awesome. It was kind of quite a vibe. Well, I think the university has done a significantly better job connecting with Detroit, and I think it really should. I think it's interesting to hear that they're planning some stuff for the bicentennial of the university in Detroit, recognizing that it was founded here. Because actually, I went to a Catholic high school that was founded on the east side of Detroit, and I actually just went over there to the original site at St. Aubin and Frederick Streets on the Near East Side. So it was an old Polish seminary, my high school, that since moved to it moved out of Detroit in 1905, so it was a long time ago. But I'm kind of like trying to work with them to get a group together to sort of like adopt that space and sort of do something to honor the heritage of our school there, because now it's a under-maintained city park, so it's a small play field with no structures on it. It's just got a single flagpole that is flying no flag with a monument with a little inscription that says, on this site in 1885 the Polish seminary was founded here and later moved to Orchard Lake. Anyway, I'd like to see U of M do that kind of stuff that honors its Detroit connections and Detroit history, because really, I don't care what anybody else says, Detroit's the most important place in the state of Michigan, and really one of the most important places in the United States, historically speaking, and I think also looking forward, in the future about when you think about things like how struggling cities redefine themselves in 21st century, which we are well into now, but as well as when you think about climate change, the specter of climate change looming over all of us, Detroit is becoming, I think, a more and more important place nationally, internationally. So U of M should be here. They should be leading a lot of the conversations about the future of the American city, the future of legacy cities here in Detroit. Wow, be financially literate, even though it's hard to do at age 18. I don't know though, because I feel like U of M students these days, the undergraduate at U of M, and this is totally perception, but is like kind of a more privileged class of people, and I would I would hope that they would realize that the world, well, I don't know. I would just hope that. If it was someone like me going in, from I don't know, kind of like this, I don't know, I would say pretty middle class background, be aware of what you're getting into in terms of finances, because that really will stay with you for a long time, right? I'll be probably paying off student loans until I die, I feel like. But yeah, I would say consider Detroit, get involved in Detroit. Ann Arbor is a small town. It's a wonderful town, but it's very much a bubble. And yeah, check out Ipsy, check out other things like Detroit, great places in the state of Michigan.